All right, this morning's scripture is coming from 2 Kings 6, verses 1 through 6. And I kind of got a disclaimer here. We're going to kind of read through the scripture first, and then we'll get back into it in the message. And I was going to just put it through the message and not read it at first, but our screen up here had been having issues, so I never know where we're at. So what you guys see is not necessarily what I was seeing. So I'm just going to read it first, and hopefully we can kind of paint a picture of what's going on. This is the word of God. The company of the prophets said to Elisha, "Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, where each of us can get a pole, and let us build a place for us there to meet." And he said, "Go." Then one of the servants said to him, "Won't you please come with your servants?" "I will," Elisha replied. And he went with them. They went to the Jordan and began to cut down trees. As one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. "Oh no, my lord," he cried out. "It was borrowed." Then the man of God asked, "Well, where did it fall?" When he showed him the place, Elijah cut a stick, he threw it there, and made the iron float. This is the word of God. How many of us here forget things? In the children's message, we talked about being forgetful, about misplacing items, or a guinea pig running away. My old roommate and his wife made the trip up here to visit us, and I'm just thrilled about that. And they can vouch for me on this one. I am always losing something. So his wife has this great greyhound, like huge dog. And while living there, I attempted to train this dog to find my keys. Because it never failed, I would lose my keys and be running all over the house at least 3 times a day, trying to figure out which hook, which coat pocket, which table I had set my keys on. It never failed. I should rephrase this. I don't really lose things. I just misplace them. I forget where I put them. But either way, I'm always looking for something. The other day, I went to the gym pretty late, up to the fitness center here in town, and I like to turn the music way up loud, so I plugged my phone in there. And I got home, and Ashley was busy doing something, and it was late, so my phone never really goes off. So about an hour and a half goes by, and I'm getting ready for bed, and I go to plug my cell phone in, and I realize my cell phone is not in this house. I have no idea where it's at. So I backtrack and go to the gym, and I'm sure if you walked by the gym at 10 o'clock last Thursday night, there was music still blaring, because apparently I forgot my phone there. I don't know how I walked out, shut all the lights off, walked downstairs, and didn't realize the music was still playing. But I'm forgetful. I always forget something, and I'm grateful for my wife because she takes good care of me and helps me remember where I put stuff. She probably gets a text once a day saying, "Hey, where's this or that or this?" But I am so forgetful. Is anyone else forgetful here? Somebody raise your hand so I don't feel like the only crazy one. Perfect. So today we're going to learn of a man who loses something. He forgets where it's at. If you have been a follower of Christ for very long, I'm sure you can relate to today's message. And maybe at some point in your life, you've lost a little faith. You know it's there, you don't know where you placed it. Perhaps some of you even came this morning looking for that. Maybe that's the very reason you walk through these doors each Sunday, is because you've misplaced that faith. You don't know where it went to, and you think maybe in this building it will be left. Maybe in this building it will be renewed, and we'll find it again. Maybe some of you used to be what I call a prayer warrior, where you could sit down for 20 to 30 minutes at a time and just pray for everything you've ever thought of. I envy those people because I have a short attention span, so I think like 10 minutes is my maximum capacity. But I know people that 20, 30 minutes they can continue to pray without breaking. Maybe that person used to be you, who'd get that joy day in and day out of caring for others, for praying for them, for presenting the Lord all these needs. Maybe you lost that prayer life, and you walk through these doors today saying, "I know it's somewhere. I know it's there. I just don't know where I put it." If you're just joining us today and you haven't been here for the last couple weeks, or I always like to say you've been sleeping for a couple weeks, We've been going over Elisha. Not Elijah, but Elisha. And all this ridiculous tales of faith he's had. All these things, these amazing miracles as a prophet of God he's performed. I say he's been having the greatest rookie year, the greatest rookie season of any prophet. Day in and day out, it's these awesome miracles. The first week, maybe I should tell. What did we go over the first week? Digging ditches. That was the second week? Yep, that was second week. First week we went over, where's Terrence? Terrence, what did we do to your farm? We burnt Terrence's farm, burning the plows. Then the second week, we dig ditches. Last week, what did we go over? Where's Ash? Yes, who said it? You get an extra piece of candy. You too, Wally. Terrence, no candy for you. I seen your wife nudge you. All right, so yes, we went over burning the plows, putting those things that keep us from our faith behind us and never going back to them. And then we dug some ditches, having that faith that God will provide us with the water. And then last week, the oil of giving all we have to God, knowing that somehow he will give us all in return, all we need, all we desire. And today, this story may seem a little bit odd. You may think like, how does this really fit in? How is this a great miracle? All Elisha did was make this axe float. Has anyone thrown iron into water? It sinks. If you're not a scientist, it sinks. So it's a miracle that the iron floated. But it's not really that awesome of a story. It's not something that you can say, wow, Elisha, you're cool. You can make iron float. It's pretty cool. But it's not awesome like all these other stories we've been learning. He's raised people from the dead. He's changed that widow's life with the oil. All of these miracles, he did this amazing thing. And then we get to this miracle today, making iron float, making this axe head come up. And it's kind of this head scratcher. You think, okay, God, your word is living. It's always teaching us a lesson. We can always take something away from your stories, your parables. What can I take out of this story of an axe floating? Out of Elisha making a piece of iron floating? Well, here's a couple things that came to my mind. The first thing is God cares. God cares so much about every little detail in Scripture. It's breathed. It's something. This young man was super poor. He didn't have much at all. He was a trainee, a student, studying under Elisha, trained to be this great Christian. He was like a college student that was like that ramen noodle poor. Like, if you've been ramen noodle poor in college, it's tough. I've been there for 7 years. It's tough. And that's what this trainee is. When you're ramen noodle poor, you don't buy books. You go to your buddy, or maybe a good-looking girl in class, and you borrow her book for the whole semester, because those books are expensive. And that's what this guy did. He doesn't have an axe. They're going to go chop down these trees to build this new place of worship. So he borrows an axe. And he's chomping away on this tree. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I can't make those sounds again. So the axe head falls into the water. He's like, oh man, that was literally the only thing I had, and it was borrowed. I cannot replace this axe. It just broke. He's sweating right now. So maybe, just maybe, this story is saying that God cares enough about the little details. God cares enough that the only thing this guy had was this borrowed axe. And he lost it. He lost the axe head. But God cares so much about this little 6-verse detail that he found it important to put it in there. Out of all the miracles, God found this one important. Or maybe, just maybe, God cares about us losing our edge. Maybe God cares so much about us losing our spiritual edge that this is what he found could tell us this. To us, this story seems so small, so little, not much details, a head scratcher of a miracle compared to everything that Elijah had been doing. But to God, this man had a problem. He had this huge problem. And God cares. See, no matter how big we make God, no matter how big we imagine God, he still cares about that littlest detail, that littlest thing we've lost, that guinea pig still running around our house that we can't find. Hopefully he cares for that family and they find that guinea pig, because guinea pigs running around the house is a little gross. But God cares about those little details. He cares when you lose your keys at 7:50 in the morning and you're running around the house. He cares when you can't find your glasses and they're right on your head. He cares when you lose your cell phone. He cares when we're in distress. He cares about all those little details. These people, they had a big problem. They had this place of worship, and it was so small that they needed to expand. And they go to Elijah and say, hey, we need to move. We need to go down by the Jordan. And Elisha, he doesn't say, well, I'm going to stay here. You guys can go build that place, and I'll meet you down there when it's nice and established. He says, I'll go with you. I'll meet you down there. Elisha was a caring man as well. He knew that God wanted us to care about these little details in Scripture. But this is what I have. I have this bigger thought, a bigger parable. Here's what I think. God doesn't want us to lose that spiritual edge. He doesn't want that iron to stay in the water, to rust. He wants us to reach out and grab it. Ask yourselves today, or as you go home, have we lost our spiritual edge? Have you lost it? Do you know where it's at? Do you feel like at one point you had a sharper edge than you are now spiritually? My guess is that we've all been here. We've all been to that place where you think, man, my spiritual life, my life devoted to Christ has gotten dull. It's not as sharp as I used to be. I'm not reading Scripture. I'm not being that prayer warrior. I'm not involved in my church. I'm not involved in my community. We've all been there. It's hard. You gut it out. You try to build up this kingdom, but it gets so hard. You get the busyness of life. All these things running around, kids, jobs, doing the activities we like to do. That spiritual axe gets a little dull. That axe handle gets a little weaker. You know it's going to fall off. You know it is, but you keep chopping away, expecting something else to happen. Maybe you slow down cutting a little bit. You're not going to hit that tree very hard. Just slow down that axe handle. Sure, that will help. I'll cut back on a committee. Maybe I'll stop playing basketball a couple times a week. Maybe I'll devote less time for studying. But then sudden, you realize that you're just getting a little farther away. You haven't replaced the axe. You've just slowed down the cutting process. One of our biggest areas I see this in is our prayer life. That time when we were at our 20, our 30 minutes, now it became when Pastor Dustin's around, we'll say a quick prayer. When we sit down and eat, yeah, I'll pray. When Christmas comes around and all the family's around and you haven't prayed for 3 months, yeah, we'll bless this food. We'll ask that it nurtures us, gives us strength. Some of you, perhaps you even gave up standards. Maybe we've had great morals. We had great ethical boundaries in life. You could ask yourself, in any situation, is this pleasing to God? And you know which way to go. And then as you get a little busier, maybe your friends change, you hang out with different peers, life changes, you get older, values change. Maybe those morals change a little bit. And here's the reality, we all get there. If this message is saying, man, this is me, don't worry, because I guarantee you, all these faces I'm looking at some point in your life will be there or have been there. I myself have been there several times. I can tell you this. This is a picture of where I was at one time in life. I went to college at Mount Marty for a year, and I majored in baseball and fun. That was the only two things important to me at Mount Marty, baseball and fun. And let me tell you, I had an A in one of those. Sometimes it changed. But I was good at both. I loved to play baseball. I loved to have fun. I had 2 goals, and that was it. On the weekends, I had my fun. On the weekdays, I attended class so the nuns wouldn't yell at me. It was a Catholic school, those of you who don't know Marty is, Mount Marty. That's what I did. That's what I lived for each and every day. I was a rebel, what you would call a punk. Then one night, a few years later, on a random Tuesday, I sat down with a good pastor friend of mine. I said, this isn't my life. This isn't what I've been raised for, what I've devoted my life for. This fun in baseball, this isn't me. I don't even feel good about myself. This is God's life, and I haven't been treasuring this the whole way. Every game through high school, through college, and into my amateurs, I wore this silver chain, and on the end of that silver chain was my number, my baseball number, and my name. So it said Dustin, my baseball number, on this bright silver chain. And I was like, if you're watching the World Series, those guys have their chains out, that was me. Like, I thought I was on top of the world. For those of you who don't know it, on my right arm, I have a Superman tattoo with a $sign in it. And you're thinking, what on earth did we hire? When I was 18 and you're a baseball player, you have to have a sweet tattoo. And the $sign was why I played ball. It was my ticket out of Stickney, South Dakota. It was my way away from the lifestyle that I had done for 18 years. It was my only way, I thought. What I wanted it to represent was not who I was. It represented something my family had taught me not to be, but something I absolutely wanted to be. And the Superman sign, well, that's kind of another odd story about my high school history teacher that I would love to indulge you in over some coffee sometime, but we don't have enough time from this pulpit. But anyways, I had this silver chain and this tattoo, and I was carrying the world on this baseball scholarship. That was my life. I was living it for those two things. It was symbolic of me at that time. So after that night, that random Tuesday, when I sat down and I talked to God and I said, God, I've lost my spiritual edge. This is not who I am. I am not this $sign and this silver chain. This is not me. And this is something minute, something so small. But I took that chain and I placed it in this basket that I still have today that my wife probably put somewhere. But that emblem is still in this little wicker basket. And I went down to that Crossroads store in Sioux Falls, and I got a little cross. And I put it on that gold chain, or that silver chain. Not for what that cross looked like as we watch these World Series. All these guys have crosses. But it was replacing something that I live for with something that gave me back my spiritual edge. Now, obviously, I can't get my sweet tattoo on my right arm removed or covered up, but I use it for a testimony. I use it for that story when say, why on earth did you get that tattoo? I said, that's who I was before I found my spiritual edge again. I use it for a story of remembrance of who we were before Christ took over my life. I tell people that was something who I once was before I sharpened my axe. Now, the story just doesn't end there. We don't just keep that axe sharp and it's sharp for the rest of our days. As I went into seminary and I took on this full-time youth job, and I'm busy with full-time work, youth, a full-time seminary student, you get a little busy in life. And pretty soon, I would read the Bible to pass tests. I would read the Bible to do my seminary work, to prepare my lessons for the youth. And one night I just sat down and I said, God, I've lost my spiritual edge you gave me back again. It's dull again. This isn't the life that I changed for. I'm spiritually dull. Help me. There's this awkward silence going around and these eyes gazing at me. And the reason why is because we've all been there. I know you haven't sat in this awkward tattoo parlor at 10 o'clock at night and got this tattoo you'll regret for the rest of your life. But we've all made those decisions that dull our axe, that make that handle a little weaker. As you chop down the tree, you know that axe is getting dull. Those decisions you make is making that axe a little weak. And pretty soon, into the water it will go. But here's the interesting story about this. As this man who had nothing, says Elijah, my axe head just fell into the water. And Elijah doesn't say, you'll get a new one. You'll replace it. He goes to him and say, well, where did it fall? And the man goes over there and he shows him the spot. And I have no idea what the significance of this stick into the water is, and I'm not going to claim I'm due, but he throws a stick into the water, and the axe head floats. And he says something to this man. He says, reach down and take it. Reach down into the water where you had dropped it and pick it up. He didn't make the axe head float onto his axe and go back to chopping. He said, reach down and take it. Maybe that's another point that God wanted us to get out of this. Reach out and grab that axe head, your spiritual edge. Don't just sit back there and say, man, I lost it. It's gone. There's nothing I can do. I know we're busy. I know we're full-time farmers, students, teachers. Whatever your occupation, your vocation is, you get busy in life. And that axe gets weaker and it gets more dull. And at some point, you fall back into this old pattern where your spiritual edge gets a little dull. Your axe head, it's about to fall off. And that's how we find it again. Like Elijah said, reach down and grab it. I'm guessing that you can remember that time in your life you took that wrong turn, that fight you had with your spouse, that thing you said to your children that you said, I regret that. And you feel down on yourself. For me, I had to be honest with myself. I was selfish. I was arrogant. I thought my choices that I made would only affect me in life, that I could live for myself. I wanted this appearance to the outward world that my life was under control, that I was under control. And I realized that this wasn't my life to be under control in the first place. It's God's life. And God has that control. And that's what gave me my spiritual edge back. But I had to be honest with what I was first. I had to reach down and take it, grab it. God, through Elijah, made this axe head float, this piece of iron that scientifically should never float. Maybe your edge is within reach. Maybe you can reach down and grab that again, just like Elijah told this man. If you haven't gone too far, because God He's always helping. He always cares about those little details. He always knows that your spiritual edge is right within your grasp. This is the theme as we've went through Elisha now for 4 weeks, that God wants us, desires for us to grasp. Here's my secret to you guys that I've got out of these few chapters. I can't make an axe head float. I can't throw a stick into water and pretend that iron's going to float. Neither can anyone in this room, and if you can, let's go down to the Little Rock River and make this happen because I want to see it. But God can and God will. All these problems, all these things that we're dealing with, God cares. The littlest thing lost, God cares. That axe head, something so small, borrowed, but so important to this man, God cared. And when it was floating, when it was on the top of that water, Elisha said, reach out and grab it. It's within reach. Now it's your job. I made it float. God made it float. Now reach out and grab it. Take back your spiritual edge. You can worship. You can share your faith. You can seek God. You can take back that axe. I promise you, it's right there. In closing, I want to read Deuteronomy 30, verse 3 through 5. Then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes, and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. Even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens, from there the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestors, and you will take possession of it. He will make you more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors. He's not saying you're going to be rich. He's saying you're going to regain that spiritual edge, more powerful than you ever had, than those before you. But reach out and grab it. That's my prayer for us this week as we go forward as a church, that no matter how far we are away from that edge, that you will repent. You will reach out and seek it. Grab it from the top of that water. That we'll live our lives humbly for Christ, no longer living these for ourselves. Let us pray. Father, I thank you so much for caring for each one of us beyond our smallest problems to our biggest ones. Lord, we know that you care and you'll always be there with us. Father, as I go out into our weeks, as we go out into this warm weather predicted, as we go out into our volleyball games, our football games, our activities as students, our activities as parents, grandparents, Lord, I ask at some point this week, you sit down alongside every one of us and ask that question, have you lost that edge? Lord, I thank you because I know if anyone in this room says yes, I know that you'll be beside them and say, reach out and grab it. It's right there. Lord, I thank you so much for that. So be with us as we go forth. Help us to remember that you're always reaching out before we even reach to you. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Please join with me in singing hymn number 511, Victory in Jesus.